All right, hey guys, good morning. Here it is, Lionel, Team Title Guy at Fidelity National Title with a couple amazing guest speakers here today. Really excited to hear what they have to share. You may be able to see the topic as it is listed here at the top as well. So please join us. If you have questions, we strongly encourage you to put the questions in the comments below, be it on social or on the Facebook feed as well. So all right, so here it is. It is the last day of January in 2023. So first and foremost, let's introduce Mr. Tom Bass. Talk to us, Tom. How are you today? What's going on? Closing out the first month of the year. I think.
Yeah, Ryan, thank you so much. And hey, Ryan, thanks for just letting me be a part of this and part of just your team and the whole get the chance to get some of this just wisdom and education and out to everybody. So I'm just so thankful. Ryan, do you want me to actually go ahead and give a full kind of update on the mortgage environment right now?
So tell me who you are, what do you do, how long you been in the business, what's going on? Then we'll introduce Mr. Lionel, and then we'll circle back through.
Yeah, much appreciated. So I own a company called Bayport Financial. Been in business for approximately around 33 years, all within the Upland, Ranch Cucamonga, Fontana, kind of region. Have a great team that obviously works and supports me. Been with me, actually over 20 years. And I'm sure there's a lot of people here on this, live stream right now, a lot of names that we all, work with and recognize. And it's been an incredible 30-year run of just friends and family within the industry. And so I'm just so thankful. And Ryan, thanks for this opportunity, bud.
My pleasure. Hey, also, as I was mentioning about the whole Facebook thing, it looks as though we may not currently be friends because of that occurrence. So I cannot tag you yet. So I don't know if you have a chance on there to do it. All right. Our appraisal speaker here is going to be Mr. Lionel Thomas. Talk to us. How are you? What's going on? How long you been doing appraisal?
All right. My name is Lionel Thomas, owner of Thomas Appraisal Company. I'm doing good. Just had my third daughter. Her name is Phoenix. I've been an appraiser since 2003. I'm a second generation appraiser. I was trained by my grandmother. She started off on a typewriter. I took her from typewriter to computer, and now I'm on my iPad, which I'm using right now.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. Well, let's look at a couple quick numbers here as we're getting some things started. I think it'll prime the conversation here and what we have going on. So I'm going to share my screen here, ready to rock. So teamtitleguy.com. On here, you are able to get to the Altos research market update. And so a quick look at this one here. We're going to click into it. I was really shocked when I saw this, and I don't know if you guys had known this number on it, but I pay pretty close attention to what's going on specifically in the city of Rancho, not because it's the only city, but we can know so many. If we look here at the inventory number, I was thinking that the last couple of weeks, we probably would have flattened out. And we were the last 2 weeks, about 135, 137 total single family residences listed in the city of Rancho Cucamonga. That number has come down to 120. So, and I'm going to show another chart in a little bit that might talk to this more. The people with bigger brains than I to crunch these numbers seem to believe this week or next we should see the bottom as it relates to inventory, and they are expecting by the first weeks of February to start seeing these numbers to start coming back up. Keep in perspective here, $3,200 in all of Rancho Cucamonga is the median rent. If you go to a city or portion of Rancho like Etiwanda, you're close to $3,900 being the median rent. We also like to talk about days on market. Please know that this number does change pretty dramatically as it relates to price point and city. And even when you break down the city and go into a different zip code, you're going to see those numbers even more respectively different. So the cool thing about this tool is it updates every single Monday. And if you're ever looking for the data specific to a city or a zip code, this can break it down. I mean, look at this outlier number right here. There's just over $1 million in Etiwanda is 154 days. Now, that's a pretty significant amount of time. I think we're going to be able to ask a couple of questions of Lionel about this as well as to any kind of pressure and things as he gets into it. But I don't want to steal his thunder either. I'm going to stop the share on my screen and ask Mr. Tom what's going on in his world and how are these things playing into that?
Yeah. So interesting, right? And those numbers actually, those statistics are crazy. So the part that I've been fascinated with is that this month of January, probably one of the busiest purchase money lead months that I've seen in a long, long time. So I'm personally experiencing buyer activity has increased substantially. Now it is interesting. I mean, it's when I look at kind of the, who's buying and who's been majority of my clients, it's definitely that kind of that first time home buyer, probably in that probably 600, 650, 700 price range. But we've been really pleasantly, surprised to see the volume of leads in the month of January. I was actually sharing this to my team yesterday. I was like, wow, if this lead volume, the way we just experienced the month of January continues on, through the entire year, it's going to be a phenomenal year. There's no doubt about it. So from just looking at that inventory, looking upon what I've experienced and seeing obviously what's happening in that first time, home buyer price range. I mean, it's been fantastic. And then, when we get a chance and just, let me know, there's some interesting mortgage information that I think that coincides with that. And there's kind of a reason why kind of behind that.
The floor is yours, sir.
Okay, great. So I think the elephant in the room right now is this word affordability. And so if there's any challenge right now is this buyer affordability. And so when rates obviously skyrocketed up in that short period of time, what it did is that, it almost doubled everybody's, potentially projected, mortgage payment. And so this area of affordability became, a huge issue. And we're still seeing that. So I would go to say that the number one topic of conversation between me and a buyer after we're working on getting them pre-approved is this range upon what can you really, really afford? And so the challenge is that we have sales prices from the seller that's come down somewhat, okay? And what we've seen from an interest rate perspective is that we've seen rates come down a little bit, which has been fantastic, okay? But I definitely see rates, for the next at least quarter stabilizing, probably staying pretty consistent. I do think the Feds are going to raise, interest rates by 0.25%, but realize that the interest rate from a home has already built that pricing already in it currently today. So even if the Feds raise 0.25%, I don't think it's going to really have any type of a long-term effect or big effect upon home interest rates. But let's go back on this conversation of affordability. So we still have this gap. So we still see this gap between seller's price, buyer, what they can afford. And so, how do we bridge this gap? How do we bring this closer together? Because it's either going to be, one of three things. Either the seller is going to have to continue to capitulate in price and come down. Buyers are either going to have to be, get raises and come up, okay, or we're going to see interest rates come down. But we can't really control what's going to happen with interest rates. But what we can control is kind of the relationship difference between the seller and the buyer. So there's been a lot of buzz, okay, a lot of buzz over the last 6 to 8 months about buy downs. And you hear them buy downs and buy downs and buy downs. The challenge with the buy downs, okay, is that most buyers and most professional real estate agents really don't understand what a buy down, how a buy down works. And so what I've found is that even though that's been a big buzzword, a lot of people have been kind of reluctant to actually go towards that because they actually think that a 2-1 buy down or a 3-2-1 buy down is actually some form of an adjustable rate mortgage. It's not, but that's just the perception. And what I would say is that the average buyer out there is that when they think of the word buy down and they associate it with the word adjustable rate mortgage, it immediately goes to the pain thought process of what happened in 07, 08. Okay, so there's that kind of that association right there. So while I would say only maybe 2 out of 10, 1 out of 10 of my clients who want to entertain a 2-1 or a 3-2-1 buy down, what I have found is that what the buyer really wants is that they want a lower interest rate and they want a permanent buy down. So what I'm finding is that we've really shifted from this concept of 3-2-1 buy downs, 2-1 buy downs to permanent buy downs. So this morning, I just did some pricing and I just said, hey, what, average person putting 10% down, what would that pricing module, look like? And so, so for example, typical buyer, good credit, 10% down. If either they got the seller to pay or they paid, but in most cases, they get the seller to pay for 1 point, they can get an interest rate around 5.875 right now. Okay. So what I found is that any type of number under 6%, it seems like psychologically, that buyer feels way more comfortable, going somewhere into the area of the fives. And what's crazy is if we get the seller or the buyer, but you get someone to pay 2 points, you're getting now down to a 5.5% 30-year fixed rate loan. Okay. That's not going to move. So what I've seen is that first-time home buyer feels way more comfortable doing a 5.5% 30-year fixed rate loan than to do some form of a temporary buy down solution. And so that's been really, really big for us, So any questions for you, Ryan?
Tom, I don't know if you've seen this yet, but inside of one of our applications that we've had for years, it's one of our most popular applications. It's called Fidelity Agent 1. It's now available as a feature in here. So again, I'll show this to you live, and I don't know if it's going to do it justice or what your thought process on it is. So I'm very curious as to what that would look like. Let's see here. I think I pulled it up to try and bring it in. Fidelity Agent 1 right here.
The buy down calculator. Yes.
Buy down calculator kind of talks about what it is. I always give the caveat and say, look, as an agent, this does not replace the lender. This just allows you maybe to be a little bit more educated in having a conversation so that you can get it over to somebody like Tom. So for example, on here, you just mentioned this, there's two different types. There's a permanent, there's even a temporary, being a 2-1 or 3-2-1. If I showed the 3-2-1, it's going to talk about the differences there. Estimated seller loan balance. Let's just throw one in here for now. Based upon this right here, it says, here's what your seller contribution is, right? Estimate. Yep. So at least it gives them a ballpark and having the conversation, and it's going to give them a quick breakdown, being able to have that. Obviously, final numbers are going to come through with someone like yourself, but I think it's a pretty good illustration. In some instances, we've been seeing our agents say that, look, we need to reduce our sales price by 50 grand. And I think you had brought it up at some point as well, saying it may not be that much if they're able to leverage a program such as this. Kind of giving an idea here, here's what the effective interest rate is today. This is what the first year would show as second year on, so forth. So instead of being 5,700 or 5,800, it's 44. And then so on and so forth as it goes through with full breakdowns. So it shows the benefits for both buyer and seller.
So Ryan, the reason why this is so important for your agents to be able to use this calculator and be able to either and show their potential seller is, here's the magical number that people need to know. So $30,000 paid by a seller to buy down an interest rate from a monthly payment perspective for the buyer is the equivalent of them dropping their sales price by $90,000.
Oh, that's massive.
That is the number that people need to realize. So you could either drop seller, you can either talk to your seller and drop by $90,000 in sales price if you want to give the same payment to a buyer versus paying $30,000 towards a permanent buy down and buying down that interest rate. Is the same monthly savings for a buyer. Okay, that is so big for for listing agents and sellers to understand. And so if all of a sudden you get a low ball offer, and that offer is $90,000 below your sales price, and you're having a conversation, let's say with the buyer's agent, and you come to find out it's really about affordability, it is better for your seller to pay $30,000 in paying down the interest rate than to drop $90,000 in sales price.
Right. So, and hey, I don't want to take too much on this, but guys, this program is here. It's Fidelity Agent 1. We'd love to be able to teach and show. I will also let you know that Tom was the guy that let me know something else I had no idea about. And that had to do with the fact that when it's a temporary rate buy down, most don't realize that if they finish before their term of that 2 or 3 years, whatever they chose, any of those additional funds get credited back to the now owner, right, the buyer, and they can use those funds, even to help pay for a refinance when interest rates start to come down. So I think it's an amazing conversation. I know Tom is extremely well versed in these programs and products. I'd have 100% confidence in being able to say, look, if you reached out to him, by all means, that you would be in good hands. I'm sure we're going to have more questions coming back. So if you're able to hang on with us for about another 12 to 15 minutes, please. Great. I also want to put it back out there to both Zoom land as well as Facebook. If you have questions, please type them in. Let's check it out real quick in between, just making sure we're good to go. If you are available, it is coming up soon. It is going to be on February 16th. We are doing our next installment of Meetings with Masters. It's going to be investor edition. So we're going to be talking 1031 exchanges, interim binders, programs, and things specifically for those people that are investing in real estate. I am looking for an Airbnb expert to come out as well and speak to that as well. So if you do know someone that is on that side, please let us know. We want to make sure that we continue to have as much content in there as we possibly can for our audience. Mr. Thomas, in appraisal world out there, I mean, we're in a crazy market. Some things seem to be defying some odds. There's still obviously a tremendous amount of demand out there, and inventory seems to be pretty low. Where do you see values? I mean, have we tanked? Have we gone 20 years in reverse in regards to values? What are you seeing from an appraiser's perspective?
Well, values are still, I would say, stable. The market has been somewhat, stagnant, for lack of a better way to put it. In luxury markets or in the higher end markets, there's been a tremendous less amount of sales. In your affordable places, obviously, they're, I would say, still climbing little by little. But the rate buy downs is definitely something that, let's just put it this way. If you're going to negotiate for your buyer, you want to look and see I'm talking to the realtors right now. You want to look and see what the normal days in the market is. You want to look and see how long the property's been for sale, because with those two factors, you'll know how you can leverage your negotiation. And, in the scenario where the home has been for sale for 140 days, it's more likely that the seller is going to, accept these type of negotiations than if it's been for sale for only 5 days.
Right.
But as far as values go, any market that has a high amount of supply, the demand is going down, and that's kind of a simple way to put it.
Okay.
Does that answer the question good enough?
I guess. I mean, kind of.
Yeah.
I just don't know. Like, every time I look at different inventory levels in different areas that have paid attention to, and Tom, if you know different on this one, most of the areas that we're still seeing pretty low on inventory, at least here in SoCal or Inland Empire. So maybe that's in different parts of the country that are not right here. But I mean, put it this way: for 2.5, 3 years, Rancho was 45 or less active listings, because the second they were on, they were gone. Last year, I think it was in late June, July, we peaked at about 223 SFRs available. And I think starting in August, we started ticking down. We hovered in about 180 or so. But since that point and over the holidays, where we went into more traditional norms, it seems as though, we're back down to a low. So I think what Tom was mentioning earlier, as it comes down to affordability and people are asking questions, is right now a good time to buy? And kind of speaking to what you're saying is, and Tom, again, maybe this comes to you, if interest rates drop too fast, let's say they go down to 5% in the psyche, what does that do to most buyers that have been sitting there waiting for affordability?
Yeah, so what we don't want is rates to drop super fast, okay? Because we will go right back into that crazy market where all of a sudden, inventory is super limited, multiple offers, buyers can't get offers accepted, and we'll start seeing, skyrocketing, prices upon homes immediately, and we'll be right back in that crazy market that we've been in that we were in for the last 3 or 4 or 5 years. So I think the worst thing that can potentially happen. So, a lot of times I'll have buyers right now say, hey, I'm kind of hoping for rates to drop. And I'm like, no, you really aren't, because the minute rate drop, you're going to lose out on potentially 10% appreciation upon a house that you would have bought. Plus the amount of competition you're about ready to go into is going to be crazy. So I'm just really, really hoping from the professional side on the mortgage that we see a nice, steady interest rate market, for the next, 12 months.
I just wonder, and Thomas, maybe this comes back to you as well, is, if we start to see values creep up because interest rates go down so quickly, wouldn't there be a good amount of pressure for values to go up? And how much more, based on wages, can people afford to buy? So
that's for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's a kind of an all around thing, I guess.
But supply and demand is always going to be an issue. If there's more demand for mortgages, then there's more buyers, and the prices are going to go up. It's to me, it's a simple process. But as far as an appraisal goes, every appraisal you do has what's called a market conditions addendum. And when you're coming up with your opinion of market value, I'm leaning on that market conditions form as a way to indicate to me whether I can go higher on this property or lower. It kind of gives me an indicator of how that market is faring.
This was another flyer kind of speaking right to what we're talking about right now. This is as well inside of Fidelity Agent 1. It says then versus now. So now this says 2022, but I'll say it's either early 2022 or all of 2020 and 2021. So for example, it shows a property listed at 650 then versus now. Then you would have had to offer 750 to get it accepted versus this. Here was your interest rate then. Here's your interest rate potentially now. Here's what you brought in to close then versus now. Here's your payment, $2,900 versus $3,900. But keep in mind, you're bringing in $100,000 less to close. And when you break down your average costs over 10 years, it's not that much different in comparison right now. There was another flyer inside of here under our premium tab. Again, I think it speaks right to our conversation today. A lot of people are trying to compare us right now versus a housing crash that you might have seen in 2008. So here are a couple things to think about in regards to this flyer here. Job cuts, and obviously we're seeing some job losses right now. Percentage in regards to foreclosure versus then. Foreclosure is a hot button item right now. But I'm telling you guys, as we look at it, where was the other one? This was it right here. We are seeing absolutely foreclosures have ticked up, but keep in mind that foreclosures were on a moratorium for 2 years or 2.5 years, and to some degree even further. So in Rancho, for example, we went from 19 or 20 NODs at any given moment to 39 to 40. I think yesterday I looked, it was at 45. So by the numbers, we're up 100% or more in regards to total foreclosure and activity, but it's still a very small portion of the business as we're seeing right now. So this kind of speaking to your topic, Lionel, in regards to values and appraisals. If we dropped 5%, it would take us back to February of last year, 10%, and you kind of get an idea. Even if we dropped 25% on total values, we'd go back to 2020. So again, is it the end of the world in regards to if something's happened? Be informed, be in your numbers, be in the know. And I think that knowledge is absolutely power on that one. Let me see questions. I don't have any in the chat right now. Let's look on Facebook. What else do you got? Are you seeing any difference in regards to types of properties, in regards to pressure on pricing, be it condo versus single family residence versus duplex, things of that nature? Is there any kind of difference that you're seeing?
Personally, a lot of the work I'm doing right now is going to be for families, like as it relates to taxes and like trust filings. And with that in mind, I would assume that these families will become, I suppose, investors. I don't know where they go once they, what they're going to decide, but I can see in some of them where they own multiple properties where they just continue buying. They continue adding to their trust because they have the, I suppose, the equity or the purchase power. But as far as, can you ask the question one more time? You're asking about property types and which ones I'm seeing in demanding.
I was just wondering in regards to if there is any pressure in different areas more so than another. Like, are you seeing certain types of properties or certain segments in the properties have a larger percentage of appreciation or depreciation on them currently versus another? Like,
it's hard to
speak looking at
broadly.
$1 million, $2 million properties versus a $400,000 property. Are you seeing more pressure in one category than another, be it the price point or the type of property?
I did one in West Hollywood like a week or two ago, and in that particular market, there had been no sales since October. So to me, that market looked very, very grim. And I just, it was a grim market. I made a negative time adjustment to try to justify for the idea that there's been no sales, and to try to again justify, that the supply is way up. There's been no sales, and the demand is really low in this particular market. So as I guess I can speak on that place, but obviously when I'm coming back and doing them locally, things are generally similar. Like I did 2 in San Bernardino yesterday, and they've in my eyes, been stable, not to a point where an adjustment is required. Like not hasn't been up or down 10% or more in the local markets.
Okay. Tom, there was a question on Facebook and it was, and I believe I know the answer, but I don't like to assume about anything. So the question is, are rate buy downs available on investment properties?
Ooh.
Yeah. So the whole concept of a buy down is that you're just basically prepaying interest. And so can you get, a seller, to pay or prepay the interest on a buy down, on an investment property? It's not an issue. So yeah, that's not a problem whatsoever. I do want to bring something to everybody's attention that I think is probably pretty important. So Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, or that's what we used to call it, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. What we are going to, though, we are seeing is that they're doing radical changes to pricing adjustments here coming up by March. And so they're increasing what they call their overlays on loan products. So just a heads up, by loans starting in February, that's going to be delivered, in March, we're probably going to see about an increase of about 0.25% in interest rate because of these additional overlays that's going to be placed on primary, homes where they're owner occupied, with good credit scores. And so this is, this is not good for us right now upon timing. But if anyone is working with buyers and you're going into contract, try to get these loans locked as soon as possible so you don't have these additional investor, what they pretty much call, pricing increases. So heads up for us, everybody.
I'm going to apologize in advance, guys. I think we're going to go a couple minutes over just because there's still a bunch of content to share. So if you got to jump off, please know. Awesome. It'll be recorded. It'll be on our Facebook page as well. And we will be uploading today's recording to YouTube as well. This is a company, like I said, that I use. It's called Altos Research. So I'll give them the credit where credit is due. This is based on a national report. Also, before I forget, somebody on Facebook did bring up, let me pull it up here real quick. Where did it go? They brought up about they're doing a lot of notaries on COVID forbearances. Let me see here. Where did it go? I'm notarizing a lot of COVID-19 forbearances. Do any of you know how these work? Are you familiar with those, Tom? Yeah, I know that we'll have to look into that. I hadn't really seen in most of the reports that I was studying as it related to forbearances is that we went into a massive wave in March, April of 2020 and really hadn't seen, I think it was a wave of about 6 months, but most of those I felt like went to the wayside. So I'm wondering if that's more case by case, but I will definitely look into it and get some information back. Keep in mind, this is an inventory number chart. This is a national number. If you listen to the full report, and feel free to check out my friends at Altos Research on YouTube for the full video. But here at the bottom, he kind of starts talking about the tick. He does believe that by the second week of February that we will start seeing those numbers start to climb. As we look at some of the other charts that are going to be here based on pending contracts, you can see that the ones that are actually coming into contract relatively quickly, which is kind of interesting in the market as a whole. As you can kind of get an idea for seasonally as well as over the last several years, because this goes back to January of 2018, so 5 years, you can kind of see where we're at, where we went up to, and where the trend is heading. I think another telling thing is here, I think our agents are doing a better job at being consistent with the message as to what to list the pricing of houses at, because you see here, the now national average is, with price reductions is 33. I think we went up as high as 57% of properties being listed. We're having a price reduction. So percentage of active market with price increases, which is interesting as well. We're talking about a lot of reductions potentially, but there is some pressure to see some price increases. And I think we're seeing that based on all the numbers we've already shared as it relates to the total number of properties available for sale. So supply and demand, I think is the word Lionel used. And so that is going to drive that number. Just as a reminder, the West End Real Estate Professionals does meet every Friday over at Central Park in Rancho Cucamonga. The information is right here. And if you want to opt in to know on your weekly speakers, that email should come out tomorrow, I would imagine, with this week's speaker. Last week, they had the CMR MLS, some great issues being discussed there, as well as some of the potential changes on agent commissions, which is kind of a totally other conversation, but still good information nonetheless. Also want to make sure, because farming is a really big deal, guys, this is one of the tools that we have access to. And as we're looking at things, we've talked in the past about turnover ratio. You see here, for example, and if you have anything on condos, either of you two gentlemen, condos are always seeming to have a higher percentage of turnover ratio, meaning the percentage of homes that are going to sell within a 12-month period by the metrics. Obviously, there's some different overlays as it relates to condos with lending, but we have seen, for example, on the single-family residences, Lionel just mentioned that in one area, there hadn't been one property sold in 6 months in that area in West Hollywood. So we have seen a compression on some of the turnover ratios just because the market kind of cooled a little bit. Normal historic averages, 5 to 7% is a solid turnover ratio for a mid-range home. Obviously, these might be a little bit more expensive, and we are now showing that, you know, your lower end numbers probably somewhere 3 to 4 on a mid-range home as compared to 5 to 7. So keep these things in mind. These tools do make it very simple for you to leverage technology to, you know, hopefully hunt fish in a barrel a little bit more, get better results on what you're trying to put out there. So leveraging the technology and tools that are not complicated can help you go a long way. Checking my notes to see if there were any other pieces or shares of information I needed to make sure I got out. Lionel, I'll finish with both you and Tom. What question did I not ask that I should ask that would be relevant to our audience?
Well, as far as, you know, appraisals are specific, so it's hard to talk broadly. I guess that they should ask what's their property worth so they can decide what they want to do. I think people are getting their tax returns and they should be making smart money decisions, whether that's investing in a tangible investment like a piece of property or, you know, I don't know what they're thinking, but knowing what their property is worth will definitely help them make a square, great decision.
Yeah, and I think the only thing that I would add, Ryan, as we kind of wrap things up just a little bit, is that, you know, just make sure, you know, as an agent working with a buyer, that, you know, you are working with a professional lender who, that when you're making an offer, make sure that that lender is making a phone call to the listing agent on that offer and really is doing a true professional presentation, you know, to that listing agent upon how good your buyer is, how good you work with your current agent, and more importantly, how well you guys work as a mortgage professional. And I've just seen is that extra phone call from the lender to the listing agent on an offer makes a really big difference upon your offer standing out over maybe the other offers that are, you know, being presented.
Well, very cool. Gentlemen, I appreciate your time this morning. And if we do get any questions after the fact, I'll definitely get those over to you. Lionel, if somebody wanted to reach out to you, how do they do that? Are agents able to talk to you anymore or lenders as an appraiser? Or do you have to go through an AMC? I guess is maybe one of the questions I should have asked.
Well, if I have an AMC license, I am a real estate appraiser. My cell phone number direct is 909-510-3353. My website is newmanthomas.com.
We stand by
909-510-3353. Anyone can talk to me. I'm open to any conversations. I guess I have the right to say, no, I can't do that, or pass along to someone who's qualified to help. But we, you know, specifically for files that are like being handled by a lender or by an AMC, a lot of times you can't talk to the appraiser, but outside of that one situation, you can talk to any appraiser about pretty much anything if they're willing to talk to you. But like if you're in a refinance, I did your appraisal, there's a certain, I need to talk directly to the AMC and the AMC will talk directly to the lender. But really outside of that one specific situation, many conversations can be had.
Mr. Tom, same question for you in regards to if someone needs to get a hold of you, has questions. I just did tag you in the comments on Facebook, but if you'd like to put it out there as well.
Yeah, just, you know what, feel free to just reach me personally. So my direct cell phone number is 909-331-0442. Love to have a conversation, love to answer any questions that you might have. Again, I've been doing it for 33 years and would love to import in any type of wisdom that I possibly can for you.
Very cool. Well, there you guys have it. Like I said, we will get this out here on YouTube as well as the follow-up. We'll put this together and send it out. And guys, God bless you. Have an incredible day. Thank you so much for your time today. We'll see you guys again real soon.
Thank you.